What a weekend of college football it was. Fantastic rivalry games and controversies were afoot. Most notably, though, the Michigan-Ohio State game was dramatic, dynamic, a surprise to all except those like myself who truly know ball and predicted Michigan to win. Now, we're going to get into the controversy of the weekend, the planting of the flags in a second, but just to recap the game a little bit, Michigan rolled into this game with their four most important offensive skill players being a converted linebacker, two walk-ons, one of which survived cancer, and some dude from Germany named Klein. And they beat the best team college football could buy, money could buy in college football. The $20 million Ohio State Buckeyes, led by Ryan Day, were trounced in that toilet seat they call a stadium, embarrassed on national television. They still are going to make the playoffs, sure, but now they're probably going to have to go on the road to a place like Tennessee, and with their soul getting sucked out by Michigan, it's not looking too good for them. Michigan won this game by being more physical in the trenches. Their O-line rose to the occasion. While Khalil Mullings only had about 3 yards a carry, that's to be expected when there is absolutely zero threat of a passing attack. Defensively, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, everybody in the Michigan secondary really stepped up, did their job, and punished Ohio State for trying to run with a confident, cocky, physical game plan. Didn't work for him. Ryan Day should be ashamed of himself. He refused to really go after the Michigan secondary, the weakness of their team, once Rod Moore and Will Johnson went down. And, I mean, he's probably not getting fired if he wins a playoff game, but he's got to be on the hot seat. You cannot be losing to Michigan, the 7-5 Michigan Wolverines, in the worst year they've had in decades when you've got that team. Embarrassing, disgraceful stuff. Did you watch the game? I assume you watched the game.
Leading up to the game, Ohio State looked like one of the better teams in college football. Their only loss being a 1-point loss to Oregon, where if a penalty goes a different way, they are headed into this game undefeated. And this was the worst Michigan team over the last 5 years, maybe even longer than that, from a talent perspective.
Excluding the COVID year, it's the worst team in the past decade. They had Joe Milton starting for them at quarterback.
Not an overly talented team by any stretch of the imagination, and you spoke to Ohio State going in with an odd game plan, considering the fact that the one strength of Michigan with Jim Harbaugh and J.J. McCarthy leaving the building was their physicality from their defensive tackles. Mason Graham might be a top 5 pick, and they tried to run right at them when they have probably the most expensive wide receiver room in all of college football, and they did not try and really
Go ahead. I'm just going to say, they also got the most expensive running back room in college football.
There's that too.
But outperformed by a linebacker, by the way.
But when you're playing a team that has its best corner not on the field and a team that doesn't have the ability to air it out, you should be trying to turn the game into a passing game where they played to Michigan's strengths, which made no sense.
I can tell you why it happened. Both Lou Holtz and Jim Harbaugh own real estate in Ryan Day's head. Both of them called Ryan Day tough, or called Ryan Day soft, said the Ohio State Buckeyes were not physically gifted as a team, had to try and throw it around. And Ryan Day desperately wants to beat Michigan by playing that run-first, pound-the-ball style of football. You look at the moves they made in the offseason with the NIL, the bring-in of running backs, bring-in of the Alabama center, beefing up the defensive line. That is all in an attempt to be like what Michigan has been the last 3 years. Play to your strengths, man. You or LSU is wide receiver university. Why are you doing this? It is truly befuddling. Ryan Day is mentally cooked. There's no other way to put it.
Well, there's also it's somewhat questionable what they decided to do at the quarterback position in the offseason, considering they got Will Howard to be their quarterback, and there was an opportunity to maybe pursue someone like Cam Ward, who got
outplayed by Kyle McCord yesterday.
But has been in the Heisman race all season long and has been better than Will Howard has been.
That is true. He's been better than Will Howard. The real issue with Will Howard, he may have gotten a concussion early in this game trying to run through 2 Michigan defenders, trying to play into that physical, tough style of football Ryan Day was no doubt espousing all week. That probably led to at least one of those 2 interceptions. He clearly had his bell rung and probably shouldn't have been out there, but he is certainly better than Aaron Nolan and any of their other backups. But we're getting a little bit too bogged down to what isn't really the main topic of this game. I want to now pivot to what happened after the game. Michigan on the road upsets Ohio State, runs to the middle of the field with their flag, plants it, massive fight breaks out. And this really was something you could watch 100 times and see something new every single time. It was just one of those classic college football moments. You had backup Michigan offensive linemen grabbing Ohio State players by the ski mask and unmasking them. You've got Jack Sawyer breaking down to tears, trying to rip the flag away from Michigan players, only for Jason Avant to come running in, Michigan legend, and rip the flag back from and protect it from the Buckeyes and their coaches. You've got a walk-on wide receiver hurling Gatorade bottles at Ohio Ohio State players and horse collar tackling people. You've got Kenneth Grant absolutely bulldozing at opposing offensive linemen. You got a friend of the program, Quentin Johnson, dragging 260-pound tight ends to the ground. It was a fantastic showing. I enjoy seeing that sort of thing. Many people are going to criticize the Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt criticized it when it was happening, say, oh, undignified, not worthy of the rivalry, yada, yada, yada. That is what makes college football great to me. Stuff like that. The real hatred between teams. The real disdain for your opposition. The refusal to let your opponent lose with grace. The desire to humiliate them. And even if you're the loser, I'm not going down without something. I like all of it. In other games, maybe it was not as worth doing. Like Arizona State. Who really cares about that rivalry? Be serious with yourselves. But in the rivalry, in the premier rivalry in all of American sports, yeah, you gotta rub some salt in the wound. And if you're getting that salt rubbed, you gotta throw a punch back at them. I loved all that stuff. Many people are pearl clutching, couldn't be me. That's what makes college football great.
I think it was incredibly soft of Ohio State to react in the way that they did because they've had the more talented team all season long. They tried to play Michigan's game and they lost. Then when Michigan celebrates on your field, plants the flag, all of a sudden you're going to try and do something about it. They haven't done something about it for the previous 4 seasons. Same thing goes for the NC State and UNC game when we're on the topic of flag planting. UNC hasn't beat NC State in 4 seasons. You had 4 quarters to beat them. They beat you, and then all of a sudden at the end of the game, you're going to start a fight because you lost the game. When you have Jack Sawyer crying, holding back tears, talking about, they can't plant the flag on our field. It's upsetting. He doesn't want it to happen. Well, maybe you should have done something about it. Maybe your offense should have scored some more points. So from that standpoint, you had an opportunity to beat the brakes off of them, and you just didn't. You're the more talented team, and you didn't get the job done.
In defense of that, Jack Sawyer, of all people, had a right to complain about the Ohio State Buckeyes losing. He was by far their best player yesterday, had that interception, which saved the touchdown, had a sack on Davis Warren. There's definitely some frustration there. Looking even more specifically at crying Jack Sawyer, he had grown up an Ohio State fan. He had watched 14 of the last 15 years where the Buckeyes just took it to Michigan, dominated them time and time again. He committed to Ohio State thinking, oh, it's more business as usual. I'm never going to lose to Michigan. 0-4. Humiliated, goes out as a senior, comes back an extra year with the sole purpose of beating Michigan and just can't do it. I can understand why he was upset. I would not want to have the flag plant on my field either. But again, looking more at that, college football is a team and an emotional game, a lot more than the NFL is. In the age of NIL, you've got guys going all over the place, but you're working out with these guys in the offseason, you're living with these guys, you form a family-like bond. When that flag goes down on your field, you're not even thinking about yourself and how your feelings are hurt. You're thinking, oh, they're disrespecting all the guys who came before me, who also gave the blood, sweat, and tears to this program, which we love, and you can't let that happen. I get the thought process. I played 3 snaps at Furman when I was playing college football. If Wofford had gone out there and planted a flag on us if they'd beaten us, which they didn't, at home, I probably would have been a little bit upset about that too. I get where he's coming from. Having said that, he's an Ohio State player. It's still really funny watching him cry and have a meltdown on the field. I'm not going to begrudge anyone for laughing, but I get it.
Some might say it's more disrespectful towards the Ohio State program, the performance they put on the field versus this specific Michigan team than Michigan actually planting a flag on the field. I mean, the performance was pathetic.
Oh, I completely agree. It was a terrible performance from the Ohio State offense. Defense played very well, but man, I understand. If Jack Sawyer should have taken that flag and planted it in Ryan Day. Let's be honest with ourselves. I think that is a happy compromise. The Michigan faithful might not like seeing Ryan Day get impaled because if he gets to keep coaching the Ohio State Buckeyes, that's at least one more win for the Michigan football team against them. Fantastic stuff. Looking at the UNC-NC State game, Mac Brown's final game, emotions were running high. The rivalry is not as significant there, although that is the best football rivalry in the state of North Carolina. So I get that too, but I'm more inclined to side with you on, who really cares? Like, that program's falling apart. Half those guys are going into the portal. It does not mean as much.
Yeah, then the other 2 games where it happened, Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State's upset. Someone beat up.
You lost by 20 points. Just walk off the field.
You're having the worst season in program history, and you lost by 20 points. Go home.
Exactly. And then Arizona State, much smaller compared to the other 3 games. but you lost by 42. Go home, walk off the field, reassess the current state of your program, and maybe you can lose by 20 next time.
You know, Arizona was pretty good last year. I like that one a lot more for two reasons. One, the Sun Devil and I think Wilmer Wildcat is his name, were just boxing in the middle of the game. The Sun Devil absolutely spun the Wildcat's head a few times, so you can tell there's some passion, some heat there. The Sun Devils also ran out and planted a trident, not a flag at the middle of the field. I like the creativity and the props. I don't think it's feasible to go plant a giant block him at the middle of Ohio Stadium, but if Michigan could do something like that, I'd be even more elated about it. Big supporter of the Arizona State Sun Devils. I hope they win the Big 12 and go to the playoffs. But clearly, we disagree. It just means more to some of these Big Ten teams. You'll notice Auburn did not go try and plant the flag because they know they're trash. They accepted their whooping to the Crimson Tide, as is to be expected, and went on with their day. Anyway, those were our thoughts about the Michigan-Ohio State game and flag planting in general. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Is it acceptable to plant a flag on your opponent's home field? Is Ryan Day the worst coach in college football history? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. And if you are still here, sign up for Underdog with our code Thicc with 2 C's. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All the best picks about college football for the championship weekend and the playoffs are ahead. Enjoy that, and we'll see you in the next video.